Coronation Street teases that secrets buried in grief and guilt are about to surface, as Carla finds herself caught in a web of protection and deception, one spun with the best intentions, but bound to unravel. The air in Weatherfield has grown thick with the past, and Carla, ever the guardian, is ready to sacrifice her own peace for someone she loves. It began quietly, with whispered names and forgotten files. Carla had long been the one Lisa leaned on, sometimes without saying a word. The name Becky was always a shadow in their conversations, unspoken but ever present, like a closed door in a burning building. Lisa's trauma surrounding Becky's death remained largely unexplored, but Carla had watched the toll it took on her. And when Carla learned that Logan, a ghost from that past, was due for a medical visit from prison, she took matters into her own hands. Michael had found the paperwork by accident. A prison-issued medical request, signed not by a health official, but by Carla herself. When he confronted her, she didn't lie. She folded, quietly, like a woman exhausted from carrying too much for too long. "I had to know," she said, eyes fixed on the window. "Lisa can't deal with this. Not now. Not ever." Michael's voice was strained with disbelief. Logan was involved, Carla. Maybe not convicted, but Matty all but confirmed it. He and Logan knew what happened to Becky. Carla didn't deny it. She had long suspected the same. But in her eyes, keeping Lisa from that darkness was more important than pursuing justice. Lisa had already lost so much, her confidence, her position, her sense of purpose. Carla feared that digging into Becky's death would only deepen her spiral. Michael, torn between fury and compassion, warned her that shielding Lisa from the truth was dangerous. "You can't protect her from everything," he said. "Especially not when it comes to Becky." But Carla had already made her decision. She met with Logan in a sterile room at the prison, sitting across from him with the poise of a woman used to staring danger in the face. Logan was older now, thinner, his bravado dulled by years behind bars, but his eyes still held that glint of danger. He spoke in half-truths and riddles, never confirming his role in Becky's death, but not denying it either. What disturbed Carla more than anything was the calmness. The lack of remorse. "Lisa doesn't need to know about this," Carla told him. "She's moved on. Let her stay moved on." Logan only smiled. "Have you?" Carla left the prison shaken. Not because of what Logan said, but because of what she couldn't prove. There would be no justice, no resolution. Only more silence. Meanwhile, Lisa was floundering. The incident with Brody haunted her. A single moment of inaction, hesitation in the holding cell, and Brody had seized, collapsing to the floor in convulsions. It wasn't entirely her fault. The medical records were incomplete, and no one had flagged his condition. But Lisa knew better. She should have seen the signs. She should have done something. The department's response was swift and humiliating. Lisa was removed from active duty, assigned to paperwork, and ordered into mandatory therapy. That alone would have been enough to break most people. But then came the robbery. It was a petty heist, orchestrated by Oddie and Brody, two young men too reckless to fear consequences. Lisa was on the scene, nearby, but froze. She recognized Brody. She thought about the seizure. About Becky. About every mistake she'd made, every judgment she no longer trusted. By the time backup arrived, the culprits were gone, and Lisa was being questioned, not as a hero, but as a liability. Word spread fast. Officers talked. The whispers were worse than the reprimands. Carla, always watching, saw Lisa slipping through the cracks. She offered comfort, yes, but more than that, she made a plan. She convinced Lisa to join her at a therapy group focused on trauma recovery. Lisa agreed, reluctantly. The sessions were difficult. Lisa rarely spoke. And when she did, it was in fragments, half memories, half denials. Still, Carla urged her to stay. Healing doesn't happen in silence, she said. You don't have to fix everything in one day. Just don't give up. But Carla wasn't just supporting Lisa. Behind the scenes, she was digging, pulling at the loose threads surrounding Becky's death, trying to reassemble the tapestry. She spoke to Matty again, who remained as cryptic as ever. He hinted, vaguely, that things were worse than they knew, that Becky hadn't simply died, she had been silenced. What he meant, Carla didn't yet understand. The dual life began to weigh on Carla. She was juggling a facade of support, while hiding her meetings with Logan and Matty. Michael warned her again, that this kind of deception never ends well. What happens when she finds out? When she realizes you've been making choices about her past without her consent. Carla didn't have an answer. She believed she was doing the right thing. But as the shadows of Becky's story grew longer, so did the lies required to keep Lisa safe. Lisa, meanwhile, was beginning to feel the walls close in. The whispers at work. The guilt in therapy. The way Carla watched her, too gently, too carefully. She could feel something was wrong. Something unsaid. Then one day, she found the letter. It was buried in Carla's desk drawer, beneath invoices and receipts. An official notice of prison visitation, addressed to Logan, signed in Carla's name. Lisa's hands shook as she read it. The ground beneath Weatherfield was about to shift again. Lisa stood frozen, the letter clutched tightly in her hand, as the last threads of trust she held for Carla began to unravel. The idea that Carla had met with Logan, the man whose name was a wound never allowed to heal. Without her knowledge sent a cold, electric shiver through her chest. Rage was too simple a word for what she felt. Betrayal, confusion, abandonment, they all churned together, leaving her breathless in the quiet of Carla's flat. Carla returned home that evening to silence. Lisa sat in the corner, the letter neatly placed on the table in front of her, her expression unreadable. You went to see him, Lisa said, her voice almost calm. Logan. You sat in a room with the man who might have killed my sister. Carla's mouth parted, but no words came. You didn't tell me because you thought I couldn't handle it. Because you still think I'm broken. I was trying to protect you, Carla finally said, quietly. Don't, Lisa snapped, her calmness shattering. Don't lie to me like I'm some child. You made a choice about my life, about Becky's death, without even giving me the chance to decide. Carla tried to reach her, but Lisa pulled away. I trusted you more than anyone. And now I don't even know who you are. The next days were filled with a painful coldness between them. Lisa moved out temporarily, staying in a small flat above a shop, distancing herself not just from Carla, but from everything, her job, her friends, even the therapy sessions. The one place she returned to was Becky's grave. She sat there in the dusk hours, tracing the lines of her sister's name in silence. Meanwhile, Michael found himself once again the reluctant intermediary. He tried to convince Lisa that Carla's actions, though misguided, came from love. Lisa wasn't convinced. Love doesn't mean deciding what trauma someone can or can't confront, she replied, bitterness edging her words. With the distance growing, Carla turned inward. She revisited her conversations with Logan and Matty, replaying them with the clarity of guilt. Matty's last words echoed like a riddle, Becky had been silenced. It wasn't enough anymore to assume Logan knew something. Carla needed proof. She reached out again, but Matty was evasive. You want the truth, Carla. You'd better be ready to live with it, he told her cryptically. Logan, meanwhile, had caught wind that Carla's visit had been discovered. He sent a letter to Carla, not through official prison channels, but smuggled via someone unnamed. In it, he taunted her with vague lines. She was screaming. I remember that. So loud it echoed for days. Carla read the words with trembling hands. There was no confession. Just a cruel reminder that the past wasn't buried. It was waiting. Lisa finally returned to therapy, not because of Carla's encouragement, but because of her own reckoning. She needed answers. Clarity. The therapist gently guided her into exploring the memory she'd buried for so long. The night Becky died. In broken fragments, Lisa recalled it wasn't just fear that had kept her silent, it was shame. That night, she had received a call from Becky. Her voice panicked, terrified. Lisa had ignored it. She told herself she was tired, that it was probably nothing. The next morning, Becky was gone. That guilt had clung to her like skin ever since. She didn't tell Carla. She didn't tell anyone. But after that session, something inside her shifted. She needed to confront Logan herself. Despite the objections of her therapist and the warnings on her record at the precinct, Lisa requested a supervised visit. She leveraged her badge, even in its diminished authority, to gain access. Michael, fearing a collapse, tried to stop her, but she was resolute. Logan was brought into the visitor's room, chained and cocky. He smiled the moment he saw her. Didn't think you'd come, Lisa. You always were the quiet one. Lisa didn't flinch. I want to know the truth. About Becky. He leaned forward. Truth. That's a funny word. You think you're ready for it? Say it. Did you kill her? Logan's grin twisted. I didn't have to. She was already broken. Matty just helped it along. Lisa froze. Her breath caught. What do you mean? You think it was a clean story? She found something out. Something about us. About the crew. We told her to back off. She didn't. So Matty scared her. Too much, maybe. She hit her head. The rest, well, accidents happen. It wasn't a confession, not technically. But it was enough. Enough to reopen wounds, and perhaps even enough for the police to reconsider the case. Lisa left without another word. Her hands were shaking, her legs felt hollow. But something inside her was solidifying again. Strength. Resolve. Not for revenge, but for Becky. When she returned to Carla, it was not with anger, but with a strange kind of peace. You were wrong to hide it. But I understand now why you did. Carla, surprised, nodded slowly. And you? I'm not broken, Lisa said simply. And I'm not scared anymore. In the following weeks, Lisa approached her supervisors with her findings, requesting that Becky's case be re-examined. With support from Michael and the re-emergence of Matty's name, there was a possibility of movement. It would be slow, cautious, but it was something. Lisa also returned to duty, this time not begrudgingly at a desk, but shadowing a detective division. Her reputation had taken a hit, yes, but her courage in pursuing an old, sensitive case did not go unnoticed. Carla and Lisa began to mend things, not perfectly, not all at once, but with honesty. They no longer pretended the past didn't matter. Instead, they faced it together. And somewhere in Weatherfield, Logan sat in his cell, knowing the walls were inching closer. Because the truth was no longer buried. And Lisa wasn't afraid to dig.